Damn, this campaign is an absolute disaster right now. I mean, everyone is a self-absorbed edgelord.
I don't need any of you. I don't need you. You're ugly. I don't need you. You're fat and useless. I'm picking up my sword and I go out of the bar on my own. I'm fighting them on my own.
I mean, Rich keeps mentioning these topics that are starting to make me really uncomfortable.
Hey, I just want you to know, like, if you wanted our characters to romance, I'd be down. I'd be cool with that if you were interested.
I mean, first of all, I don't understand how long this campaign is even going to go on. I mean, is it a one shot? Is it like a mini series? Are we like on like a lifelong campaign?
Guys, are we doing like a one shot, 3 shot, like an actual campaign? No. Nobody knows. We're just all right.
Nothing is planned. Nothing is organized. I'm starting to have anxiety. Like, I really feel like I got to pull the plug on this pretty soon.
You know, it's a shame, man. I really think this campaign would have worked if we just had a session 0.
What the hell is a session 0?
A session 0 is a session that you hold with your players before your campaign ever starts. But what do we do in a session 0, Rich?
So in a session 0, you want to talk about expectations for the player and for the GM.
So in terms of expectations for the campaign, let's keep in mind that this is both your players' expectations as well as the expectations of the GM. What do you want to get out of this game as someone who's running the game, and what do they want to get out of this game as players of the game? This can cover anything from they want combat heavy versus role play. The GM would like the players to take turns and share the spotlight. You can make this up as you go, but check in with them.
You also want to talk about boundaries and zero tolerance topics.
Now, with boundaries and zero tolerance policies, it's really important that you cover this, even if you've been playing with your players for a very long time. You never know if someone at the table is held back or maybe realized something halfway through a story is making them feel a little odd. So this is an opportunity to check in once again with people you know. What won't be tolerated? What things make them uncomfortable? How do we avoid them?
It's an opportunity to introduce house rules.
All right, house rules. The last thing you want is to be halfway through session 1 and somebody decides that they are going to utilize a mechanic they're familiar with, but you forgot to tell them that that's not allowed. House rules are really important in session 0. You may not have any. You may go right by the book, but at least mention that. Any house rules that you do have, it is important to detail them and how they will function, but also ask your players if they're okay with this. This might be something that they're not interested in doing, so take the temperature.
This is your opportunity to introduce characters and workshop last-minute idea changes and build changes.
Now, in terms of introducing your characters and workshopping last-minute changes and ideas, this is a great opportunity to sort of see for the first time what your players are thinking about in terms of their character builds. This is important. How well does it play with what you've designed for this campaign? Does it fit within the framework loosely? It doesn't have to be a perfect match. Actually, those imperfections are great opportunities to build stories. However, somebody might be building something that's way outside of what you intend for a story arc, and this is a chance to catch that.
This gives you the opportunity to ask connection questions with other members of your party. What's something they did that makes you trust them? What's something they did that makes you not trust them? And what's something that you both love doing together? Have the GM ask the players personal questions about their character. What's their favorite thing to do in their downtime? What do they love to eat? Who's their best friend?
This is an opportunity for you, the GM, to clarify any points about a character's motivations, intentions, or backstory. We use this deck of cards to prompt very interesting questions that we can ask the other characters at the table that we never would have thought of asking. So an example of this is one of our characters was asked, "What's your favorite food and why?" And it became less about the food and more about the abused sous chef who made the dish and the relationship that was developed there. All of a sudden, based around a question about food, something I personally would never think to ask, we now have this really beautiful snippet of content about how this character behaved with someone else. I loved that.
Have the GM introduce the setting.
All right, so the GM should introduce the setting to some degree or another, whatever you're comfortable with. You don't have to give all the details of the setting, but give your players enough that they can walk away from the table and prepare for the next session, thinking about what it is they're going to encounter.
And lastly, it gives you the opportunity to cover anything else the players should know before session 1.
All right, and finally, this is the opportunity for anything else. Do you have anything that's hanging that the characters or players need to know before they step into gameplay at session 1? So, Rich, session 0 sounds really helpful and really cool, but what are some examples of how this has impacted your game? All right, so you mentioned something about the characters knowing each other. How has that impacted your game?
Yes, meeting in a tavern has its place. There are campaigns that are fun like that, but I'm telling you from previous experience, having the characters know each other beforehand adds so much drama, previous history, and things to overcome together. Yes, you have the central goal of the story that the players and characters are trying to overcome, but if their personal quarrels, beefs, and everything gets in the way, that's just more drama, and that's what we're here to tell. Drama-filled stories. You need conflict and you need tension, and that really helps.
And do you really mean to tell me that you've had 0 instances of people being uncomfortable at your table?
Yes, I 1000% mean that. We have had 0 instances of our players feeling uncomfortable at our table. Nobody has ever came to the DM or anybody saying they felt uncomfortable because of something that was brought up during the game or in the space. And I don't mean to toot our horn, but we're really proud of that. The fact that, our players feel safe at our table.
And you really mean to tell me that everyone plans out their sessions weeks beforehand like it's a job?
We've had problems in the past of things getting in the way of our scheduled sessions, missing half the party, not being able to play, people being disappointed, right? That sucks. That's how campaigns fall apart. If you spend the time to really plan out when this campaign is going to begin, when it's going to end, how many sessions, and everybody commits to those amount of things, sure, things come up and that happens. But if you try to commit beforehand, you're going to have a painless process and people are going to know what to expect. And that's half the battle. Set yourself up for success and it'll be a little bit easier.
Do you really mean to tell me that you ask a character a question and then boom, they instantly have some kind of epiphany about that character?
You can be an awesome character builder. I like to think of myself as a pretty good character builder. Don't want to toot my own horn or anything, but there are some things that I don't think of. So having my DM ask me questions I'm not ready to answer puts me in a headspace to learn things about my character. And that's what a session 0 is for. Learn these things so when you get to session 1, you're ready to role play. More specifically, there's a character Rook that I was making, and I had thought of so many things about his character, but I never thought of the question I was asked, which, who is someone your character was romantically interested in, and where would they want to take them? And I'm like, oh my God, there's so many things about my character that I hadn't thought of something so simple. So I eventually thought of who he'd want to go out with and where, and I learned something about my character, and it was beautiful.
I think session 0s are really important, even critical.
I feel like without one, your game is gonna have hiccups, it's gonna have problems. So here's a chance to prevent that.
And the best way to put out a wildfire is by making sure it never happens.
Well, yeah, and as with any good creative practice or any practice in general, planning and setting expectations and setting goals can be one of the key components of that. So why not do it?
I love session 0s. I hope that this video not only shows the importance of session 0s, but shows that you can get so much in-game, in-play from them.
All right, well, we hope that you include this, and thanks for watching this. And
if you want to watch a really good example of a session 0, we did one last week.
Yeah, so definitely check out our Daggerheart series, A Clockwork Silence, where in our session 0, we go over all of this stuff. We're gonna put a connection to that with this card right here. We will talk to you soon.